Hi, I'm Chad Barr, the president and founder of the Chad Barr Group and the new Digital Empire Academy. And today on Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, I will share with you what it takes to become a thought leader, what it takes to create amazing, provocative content that makes you notice, and what are the elements of powerful $1 million web presence. So stay tuned. You're in for a great surprise.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives out of the Full Monty Leadership Interview Series, where today we're going to be looking at why more than ever you have to stand out and how to actually do it. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in, we're about to go full Monty. If you're a regular viewer, big thank you to you because you've made us #1 globally as a podcast for Fortune 500 listeners. We're also honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to listen to if you want to be a better leader, and also GNA cited us in the top 10 podcast for HR pros and employers. So thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. And remember, we always need your help in staying relevant, so please get on over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. Watching and listening to the show, you are a high-level executive, an entrepreneur, a leader, or a leader in some capacity. And whether you are a CEO or a starting entrepreneur, it's clear that the game has changed. For instance, if you go onto LinkedIn today, you will see that people who are employed as CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, that C-suite individuals are writing articles. Why is that? Think about that. I mean, 10 years ago, you got a great job, you stayed in that great job, you did a good job at your job, and as a result, you got promoted or you got a raise, and then maybe you moved on to another company. So why today do those people in the top leadership roles, not just entrepreneurs, but in top leadership roles, why do they understand that they've got to be producing content? Why do they understand that they've got to actually have a face in the world today? Well, our guest today is Chad Barr. Chad is the founder and president of the Chad Barr Group. Chad is an internet marketing strategist with over 30 years of experience in transforming business through technological innovations. He was born and raised in Israel. Chad arrived in the United States at age 22, determined to capture the American dream. He founded his own technology company in 1987, yes, before the internet, and quickly became a globally sought-after software developer, mentor, and strategist. Now, Chad devotes his time to writing, coaching, consulting, and speaking, and leading his clients to greater successes. The guy is prolific. He writes about the web, marketing, business strategy, and publishes hundreds upon hundreds of articles. The Chad Barr Group works with clients on multiple continents, including the UK, Italy, Germany, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Israel, and across the United States. So, he's kind of getting out there a little bit. He helps his clients to leverage the power of the web to dramatically transform their businesses and establish a powerful web presence. His firm, the Chad Barr Group, is recognized as one of the leading strategic internet development organizations in the world today. So please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Chad Barr. And the crowd goes wild. Good to have you, mate.
Thank you, Dov. I could listen to you all day long, but this kind of an introduction, who would not want to listen to you? This is fabulous.
Good. Well, it's great to have you here, mate. And we're honored to have you here. I know you are the force behind many of the people many of whom actually I know and are friends of mine, who you're the force behind them. You're the one who's helped them to leverage their presence. And I want to go back to saying what I said before. which is that you started your technology company back in 1987, and you've gone on to become, first of all, a software developer, a mentor, and a strategist. This is predating the internet. So talk to us about, A, how you got into the software world, and then how did that transform into being the person who really helps people to have a presence?
That's a great question. First of all, thank you. I'm honored to be here on the show. I listened to some of the guests on your show, and I'm impressed with the lineup. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to an amazing time with you today.
Fabulous.
So I was a music major, and I decided while studying music and entertaining and performing and composing and arranging to take a computer course, computer class. And it was COBOL at that time that I took, and I actually fell in love with programming. So I decided to change my major from a music major to a computer science major, studied programming, and then my first job was with a consulting firm that specializes on developing software solutions for different organizations. And then several years into it, I decided it's time to do it on my own. So I decided to open my own company and realize that there's a possibly way to do it better and not having to answer to my boss, but to have to answer to clients. And that was a fun journey for quite a few years. I developed solutions for nursing homes, developed solutions for wholesale distribution centers. It was just tremendous amount of both challenges to overcome, but a lot of fun in the process. And then probably I got together with Al Gore, and we decided to invent the internet. Not quite, but
Not quite.
The internet started to kind of was in its infancy, but started to gain tremendous strength. And I remember a client of mine, a distribution center client of mine, came to us and said to me, you know this thing called Amazon? And that's going back about, 15, 17 years ago. Yeah. And he said, you know this thing called Amazon? Can you help me get there? Can you help me provide my clients with the kind of platform solution that Amazon provide their clients? And I realized not only that there is a major challenge ahead of me, but possibly a major opportunity. I decided to seize the moment, took two of my team members and said, all you are to do right now is study how to program for the internet. And that just opened up tremendous door for us to start to move into the internet. And then I completely fell in love with developing solutions for the internet. And through our work with different clients, that also has attracted consultants, speakers, authors over the years. And our focus has completely changed from that music major that became a software developer to now for the past almost 15 or 20 years, developing solutions for the internet from its infancy and leveraging today content creation, marketing, business development, but all through web technologies in order to get our clients' value and our clients' brand more out there.
You know, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, first of all, I want to start right at the beginning, which is musicians are famously bad at business. So you started out in the musical world, but clearly there was that business part of you was already ticking in the background somewhere. Was that ever a struggle for you, you know, between the highly creative and sort of flow state that musicians pride themselves on and this solution-oriented, which you constantly use that word, that solution-oriented mentalities? Those seem like two very different worlds.
You know, I think some of the best musicians out there are some of the most creative entrepreneurs. Wasn't it even Apple, Wozniak, and even Steve Jobs that had some music background there and music love in their life, and maybe even Bill Gates, if I'm not mistaken. But what I found personally, that there's a lot of similar thinking between music composing, music development, to developing software and internet solution for the web. So the same process of thinking that I had to put myself through in order to compose a piece of music, arrange a piece of music, write the score, almost the same type of energy, at least that's what it felt to me, was going into the writing of software. And then what I've come to realize early in my career, that there's more than just writing software or writing music that I need to learn, but I need to learn how to market myself. I need to learn how to do bookkeeping. I need to learn every aspect of the business, which was fun for me to learn. And almost like composing a piece of music, and you put the pieces of the puzzle together one note at a time. That's how I felt building my own business putting the pieces of the puzzle together one piece at a time.
But you said something earlier, I'm going to put forward my bias. It's not the truth. It's a bias. I get that. But you went from music to software, fantastic, and then you sort of saw the internet taking off, and somebody said they wanted to understand how to do the Amazon thing. Could you do that? There's a lot of people at that point would just go into overwhelm. Would just go, that is way too big. That is massive. Now, I'm going to say my bias is that you were a young whippersnapper and you probably went, okay, well, I can take this on. But I find that, even now, I know for myself, there are things that get thrown at me that are related to I do a lot of stuff, that, online. But there's things that get thrown at me and I go, my head is going to explode. I can't possibly take in another thing. How did that even cross your mind, the overwhelm of it? Or was that something that sort of felt very natural for you?
I love the question. So two things come to mind. Number one, personally, I thrive on challenges. If the challenge fits my being, if the challenge fits my passion, and I feel that, that passion going, I've got to conquer this thing. So number one, I know I have to go there. Mm-hmm. I have to figure it out. Number two, I've learned over the years to surround myself with amazing genius. And I'll talk about it some more as we dive deeper today into creation of content and what is the genius out there, both inside us and surrounding us.
Absolutely.
But the genius that I surround myself is an amazing team, amazing advisors that constantly pushed me outside the boundaries of my own envelope. So both following my own passion, I said, I'm going to conquer this thing. And number two, having the ability to tap into this amazing talent out there. And few of them were full-time employees of mine that loved the challenge. I think those were the two ways for me to conquer this thing. And look, I have to admit that probably like any other entrepreneur out there, I've made my share of mistakes as well. And realize, perhaps this is something I should not have gone into. But luckily, throughout the years and being in business for 30, actually, we are in 2017, so that's been 30 years. I've made more right choices than wrong choices that kept me in business here for a long time. But the key for me is the passion, the enthusiasm to know I've got to conquer it. I want to say one more thing. As I was going through college, my instructors, or several of them, came to me and said, we really like the way you're presenting yourself. Would you teach to us? And my first answer was, sure, I would love to teach for you. And I never taught at a college level. So that was the first challenge that was facing me at that time. And I said, what would you like me to teach? And I said, this thing, Lotus 1-2-3 just came out. So I don't want to reveal my age, but it was right around 87, 86, I think.
Right.
So they said, this thing, Lotus 1-2-3 just came out before even Excel, right?
Right.
Would you teach the course? I said, sure. I never touched Lotus 1-2-3 before. And they said, well, the good news is the class starts in 2 weeks. I said, I'll do it. So similar concept to the challenge you're asking me about Dov, that I put myself through a crash course on how to handle Lotus 1-2-3. And I figure out, as long as I stay one step ahead of the class, I should be in great position. And that's what I've done. I stayed one step ahead of the class. I taught the class. It was a fabulous class. An entire accounting firm took my class. And it just so happened I was still very young before I even started my business. And one of them became my full-time accountant, my first client. So it's kind of funny how things are going. But I love those challenges when people are throwing those challenges at you and saying, can you do it? If it feels right, I just go for it.
Again, a couple of things to unpack there. The first of which is you said, as long as it aligns to my passion. But your passion wasn't Lotus 1-2-3. So what was the passion?
That's, again, great questions. The passion was how to leverage technologies to improve our lives and our businesses. So it's not a spreadsheet for the sake of a spreadsheet. It's how am I going to use that to improve the enjoyment of my life? How am I going to use it to improve the control of my business? How am I going to use it to propel my business and my life forward? So it's always not technologies for technology's sakes, but it's technology to improve what it is that we do and the value that we deliver to our clients.
So that's interesting, because I got to ask you another tough question. The tough question is this. Did you know that at the time, or is that retrospective?
Probably retrospective.
Right.
To be,
so
to,
I'm still asking,
complete.
What was the passion at the time? Because it wasn't Lotus 1, 2, 3. So what was it? What was actually that got you to go, yeah, okay?
I loved figuring the things out. I love conquering things I did not know.
Right.
So even I remember when I taught first of all, when I taught myself music, but then I went through school to study that, or when I had to figure out the composition or how to play something on the guitar. I love the challenge of figuring out something I did not know. So what felt right is the challenge to improve my thinking, to improve something I've not done before, to go into the unknown. The enjoyment was to conquer a road never traveled before, to conquer something that I felt if I were to do this, it seems to me that there's going to be tremendous enjoyment, pride in doing so, and the value that will be generated for me potentially is going to be great, and potentially will take me into areas I never thought I'm going to go after or into. So in retrospect, it's easy for me to 2020, but I would say to you, it was conquering the unknown, something that I felt could have a major impact on my future.
So the passion, it sounds like, was both the challenge and the adventure of a path that you actually didn't know where it was going to go.
Very well put.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Now, you co-authored a book called $1 Million Web Presence. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that is a place where I think people are going to be able to grasp how the contents of that book are about how to leverage your brand, leverage the web to get your brand so that you can transform your business. Talk to us a little bit about that.
For many years, people would approach me and say, "Can you help me with my website?" And early in my career, my reply would have been, "Sure." But then I've come to realize that something is lacking there, that there's more to just putting together a website, even a beautiful looking website, almost
Sure.
a gorgeous website. There's more to it. And as I start to reflect on that, what I've come to realize if I were to simplify this thing, there are three key components that I refer to as web presence. So by the way, when people say to me today, again, retrospect, fast forward into today, when people say, "Can you help me with the website?" My typical answer, I have to just share with you that you're already thinking about it in a completely wrong fashion. Mm-hmm. And usually the answer is, why is that, Chad? And the reason if the starting thinking is the website, the reason it's the wrong way to think about it. My position is first of all, you have to figure out your strategy.
Yes.
Both your business and internet strategy. Second, you have to figure out what I call your remarkable content. And third, you have to figure out the whole piece of the marketing and the wow factor. People oftentimes dive too fast into just designing a website before figuring out what is the strategy of the business, what is the marketing strategy, what is the content that needs to be there. So from my perspective, the void that was missing is what I call web presence. And web presence, rather than website, contains in it the strategy, the content, the marketing, and the wow factor. Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, when I talk about strategy, content, and marketing, what I mean by that, the first thing I focus on is strategy. And what I share with my clients, let's figure out, first of all, how would you paint success? If you were to fast forward a year, 2, 5 years into the future, what does success look like? How would you articulate this? Once we figure out what success looks like, we then get into what I call the profile of the buyers or the audience you're trying to attract to you. Yeah. Who are the buyers? Where are they located? What do they read? What are their preferences? What do they read? What do they watch? What do they listen to? Are there certain events that they attend? Only when we understand the buyer's preferences can we start to target the important things that are important to them. And lastly, what is the marketing or the remarkable value, I should say, that makes you irresistible? All those questions are part of strategy. Then I get into what I call remarkable content, There's so much mediocre content out there. The question is, how can we position ourselves as somewhat provocative, some point of a leader of interest, so all of it falls into the umbrella or under the umbrella of content, remarkable content. And then finally, it's to hold the market. What marketing initiatives should you get into in order to make sure that people are noticing you, people are contacting you? I call it internet marketing gravity, where it brings activity or bring traffic to you. Those three components is what I refer to as web presence in its simplicity.
We've all heard, I think people have heard, even who are not internet marketers or have never sort of dived into that world, we've all heard content is king. But I think there's a challenge with that, and it ties back to something you said before, actually, with the Lotus 123. We have something called the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. It's one of my other businesses. And we teach people to become speakers. I do that privately, one-on-one. I do it within companies, and we do it as a public program. And one of the things I say in there is, if you're freaking out about what you're going to present, but you ask a question who you're selling to, and the answer is whoever the answer is, you don't have to be 10,000 miles ahead of them. You actually have to be 3 steps ahead of them at most, which is what you were saying before about, just the next step ahead. But 3 is fine. Then you're always going to be ahead of the curve. But the other piece around that is this piece around, I think that a lot of people have got the idea content is king, and I get that, but I think it's outdated because, as I said in the introduction, now CEOs from major companies are writing for the web. CFOs are writing. Content in and of itself is now become a wash. Everybody, there's all kinds of stuff. And you talk about not just content is king, but how do we get them to stand out? For our entrepreneurs who are watching, listening, for our C-suite individuals who are watching, listening, how do we help them? Like, if they've got it, okay, I've got to create content. How do we show them it isn't just about regurgitating? Because as a speaker, I see speakers do this. You go out and you sound like everybody else. So that's why I mentioned the Speaker Academy. How do we get them to stand out? You're the man. You understand this. How do you get them to really do it?
Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. So couldn't agree more. Number one, I would push back at one thing, and I wrote about it in the book, Million Dollar Web Presence. If content is the king, provocative content is the ace.
Absolutely.
So that means that if we're out there just to create a lot prolific content, we're somewhat mediocre. Because a lot of people are putting out content. What is the edge that gives us the provocativeness? My simple benchmark is very simple, because like you, I watch a lot of speakers both in live, and I watch a lot of speakers on the web. And unfortunately, too often times, my reaction is, so what? I've heard it 1,000 times before, which borders on mediocre. What can we do to punch up our content in order to make sure that people say, wow, I never thought about it this way? When one of my clients says to me during a live presentation or in a conversation like this, wow, Chad, I never thought about it this way. That's good enough for me. I can take this to the bank typically. So what I teach my clients and what I preach to my client is the need to become provocative, not for provocativeness, but provocative in order to make sure that there's substance behind it and to get the reaction from others to say, anywhere from, wow, I never thought about it this way, oh, this is profound, I have to take some notes down. Or better yet, the biggest compliment I could ever get from clients of mine is when they say to me, I just got your newsletter, I had to print it because it goes into the folder called Chad Barr. I couldn't get a better compliment than that. So
sure.
Now, about a year or so ago, I created a podcast that talks about 11 or 13 ways of how to become provocative. So here's one simple example. If you were to start your sentence with, this may sound counterintuitive, but typically what comes after the but should better sound counterintuitive.
Yes.
So the question you asked me before, Dov, talking about websites and things like that, I could easily have said, Dov, this may sound counterintuitive, but it's not about creating websites. It's about creating web presence. May I share with you the distinction between what a website is to what a web presence? And then, of course, typically the answer will be, sure, share that with me. There are three key elements to make sure, and then I can go into this. Or I even said to you before, when a prospective client says to me, I need help with my website, my typical answer would be, you're already thinking about it in a complete wrong fashion. May I share with you why? Mm-hmm. Right there, I'm becoming somewhat provocative. So with that in mind, my first suggestion is to think about, how do I become provocative? There are at least 11 or 13 ways in that podcast, and I'll be glad to share with your listener offline somewhere on my website. Just search on my blog, chadbarr.com, for how to become provocative or provocative content. That podcast should come up, and it's 11 ways to do so. So the key here is to make sure that when we create this content, we want to make sure, first of all, it's practical. People can start taking action. Mm-hmm. And number two, that people say, or the reaction that we get from them is somewhere along the lines, I never thought about it this way, or this is profound. I need more help from the guy, or I need more information that will allow me to figure out how to do that.
So talk to us about the line, because you mentioned it there. Because I don't think most people understand the line. And I know I may have even battled with it myself years ago, which is the line between being provocative because I'm trying to be provocative versus provocative in a way that is magnetic, that pulls people towards me. Because provocative, that term itself can be both a repulsion and an attraction. Talk to us about the line. How do people work out the line? I mean, obviously they work out the line in the result, in that the person says, oh, this is great, I want more. But how do they work out the line? Because you're writing that piece of content, or you're producing that piece of content, and you've got to answer that question before the world sees it. How do you help them with that?
So let me give you an example, if we may. So if I could, let's just reverse the roles here. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I will demonstrate how I help my clients think through this. Fabulous. And how I help my clients create a good to provocative piece of content, somewhere between good to provocative, right? So here's the question that I would ask you to possibly reflect upon. Among your clients, I'm sure that they're facing a lot of challenges, anywhere from simple to profound to advanced challenges. What is one, just for the sake of our discussion today, what's one of the challenges that your clients are facing? And I'm going to take some notes here so I don't have to rely on my memory.
Okay.
What's one of the challenges your clients are facing?
One of the challenges is that the next generation leader is having a challenge with the fact that the present generation leader won't let go, doesn't trust them to step up into the role.
So I'm going to write here, the next generation leader does not trust the current generation to be able to handle the role. Is that what you're saying?
No, other way around. So the present generation don't trust next geners to step up into the role, and the next geners can't do anything to prove to them that they're actually ready.
Beautiful. Thankfully, I'm taking notes so I don't have to rely on my memory, as I say. So present generation leaders does not trust the next generation leader,
right,
to be able to handle the role.
Exactly.
So if I were to say to you, Dov, I've been fortunate to lead my company. I consider myself a present leader. And one of the challenges I'm facing today is in my future generation, I'm not sure that they can handle the challenges of the future. And I'm sure there are a lot of insights, and you probably would have to ask me a lot of questions. But again, just for the sake of this podcast, what 3 insights you can tell me, Chad, if you were to do these 3 things, you will absolutely start to groom your next generation to become the present generation leaders?
First thing I would say is make a list of all the ways that you trust them but have not fully verbalized. So there's assumptive, you just go, oh. And one of the ways that I do that to people is I say, imagine that your next gen person, so your son, your daughter, whoever it is, has left and you have to replace them with somebody else. Even though that person is highly skilled and highly talented, what would you not naturally trust them at? Because that's the stuff you already trust next gen with. So that would be my first one. Next thing you can do to make sure they're ready is actually engage somebody to assist you in communication, because that's where it usually breaks down. So in communication around values and purpose of the organization.
Love it.
And the
What's the third?
And the third thing you can do in order to make sure that they're truly ready has got nothing to do with them. And that is to really ask yourself, who will you be when you walk away? Because maybe it's not about not trusting them. Maybe it's about not trusting who you'll become once you leave.
Very good. So I just engaged you in a process that took us roughly a minute or two to pull good piece of content from you. And I could easily turn this piece of content into a podcast, a short podcast, a 90 seconds, 2-minute video on your blog or your website. If we're in my studio creating this piece of content or on Skype recording it just as a unique piece of content, here's what basically I would suggest you do. So I'm going to become Dov for a brief moment here. I'm about to look. I know it's going to be tough to look as handsome as you, but I'm to look at the camera, and I'm going to create this piece that sounds something like this. I'm going to look at my notes I just took from. Obviously, you are the content expert. I just created a process here that enables me to pull good piece of content from you. So here we are. You know, I've been fortunate to work with some of the most successful entrepreneurs, executives in the world. And in most of the conversation that we have about their business, they share with me the following challenge. And one of the key challenges that they are facing, it's all about the fact that the present generation leader does not trust the next generation leader. They have this gap of trust. So this is one of the challenges that you are facing in the organization of how to bring the next generation to become the present generation trusted leader. There are quite a lot of insights I can share with you. Here are the top 3 I would like to share with you right now. Number 1, you have to make a list of ways that you trust them, but you've not fully verbalized it. So once you make that list, it's much easier for you to kind of get tangible ideas of where is the issue of trust or lack of trust. Number 2, you have to engage someone to assist you in the communication around value and the purpose of the organization. It's the why, it's the purpose. Why do they exist? And finally, and this may sound counterintuitive, but it may not be them. It may actually be you. What you have to do is, who will you be? Ask yourself the following question. Who will you be when you walk away? So let me pose this question to you. As a leader in the organization, what are you doing today to make sure that you implement such insight so your organization and your leaders are not just barely surviving, but actually thriving? If this resonates with you, give me a call or send me an email, because some of the best relationships I've created over the years have started with a simple conversation, just like this one.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So again, thank you. So what have we done? I easily or simply tapped into your brain.
Yes.
To ask you some simple questions about your area of expertise, to pull out powerful content and then just put it out there in an effective format. There's no selling involved here. It's all about value, value, value. How can I engage your target audience with value and provoke them to say, wow, I like those 3 ideas from Dov.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the third one did sound counterintuitive and somewhat provocative. I have to, maybe I have to check out his website some more. Better yet, why not pick up the phone and send him an email? Because this is exactly the kind of things I want to do with my team. That's what I help my clients think through. I want to engage or inject one more key element. So we just took 2 or 3 minutes to create a powerful piece of content.
Yes.
You being the thought leader out there. I can take any of your 3 points, Dov, and turn them into a separate piece of content. So, for example, your third one, I'm just taking it at random. Who will you be when you walk away? The piece of content could be 3 questions to take your leadership skills to the next level. Mm-hmm. Or what leadership question have you not asked yourself yet? Mm. And now you talk about this, and that could be a 2, 3, 4 minutes piece that you talk about. How do you engage, or how do you ask yourself those questions? I can take number 1, make a list of ways that you trust them. 7 ways to make sure that your future generation is trustworthy. Mm. And now we create a different piece of content. That's how we start to build this remarkable piece of content. It could be a podcast, it could be a video, it could be an article. We can take the collection of those articles together, make it into an ebook. In the future, create a leadership course online. There's so much that you could start building from that. The sky is the limit.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Can see why you are the man. You the man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. I will actually, you know what? I will take it. I will use what you just gave us, and I want to put it out there as a demonstration for people. I think that's a powerful, powerful piece. It's really important. You know, you mentioned.
By the way, it's one of my favorite exercises when I provide my speaking presentation. It's one of my favorite exercises. No matter what's the size of the audience, anywhere from 20 to 2,000, I just pause there 10, 15 minutes and I say, I just want to do something with you very quickly. And I show them how to create a provocative, powerful piece of content in 5 minutes or less. Not only people go, wow, but people say to me oftentimes, right there in the moment, in the past, it used to take me hours to create a piece of content. You just showed me a way to do it in 5 minutes or less. Yeah. So there's a whole different aspect that we've not talked about, that most people either don't take the time to create these amazing experiences, to take those amazing experiences that's sitting here and start to put it out there. But if they do so, it also takes them tremendous amount of time, sometimes hours or days, to create a simple piece of content that could take 5, 10, even if I triple this thing, it could take 15 minutes to create a powerful piece of content.
But the key, what I want to go back to, which I thought was so powerful, is that deceptively simple first question that you asked, which is, what is a challenge they're facing? Because I think that we don't look at it that way. I mean, I think all of us who market in any form, we tend to go, oh, here's something they need, right? Rather than saying, well, what are they telling me they're already having a challenge with? And, you know, by simply asking that question that you asked, that allows me to put myself in the shoes of the other. And to say as if, oh, okay, if I was asking that question, what would, you know, if I was the other person asking that question, what would I say is the 3 quick tips? What are 3 quick insights? And as you said, then breaking that down, it's fabulous. It really is.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. I want to demonstrate one more thing that I think will be of tremendous value for you, for the listener of this show. It's a concept I developed several years ago. I call it targeted value.
Okay.
It's similar to what I just did, but just slightly different. And I just want to talk for a brief moment here about targeted value, because I really feel it's a very, very powerful concept. So So right now we focus for a brief moment on what's one of the challenges your clients are facing. What's one of the challenges that you are facing right now in your life, in your business?
Me personally?
I just want to demonstrate something quickly.
Making sure that I am seen by those who would book me to speak.
Very good. Beautiful. Make sure seen by those who would book you to speak, right?
Yeah, not only seen, but that they would want to book me.
Very good.
That's also important. They see me, but I actually want to make sure they book me.
So pretend for a brief moment we do know each other, or even that you don't know me, and I send you an email. I say, so let's take the first case scenario. I know you, either we met or you're a client of mine,
sure,
or prospective client of mine, and I send you the following email. Dear Dov, I was reflecting of our conversation from the other day, the other week, the other month, whenever it was, right? And I've come to realize that one of the challenges you share with me, it's all about how to be better seen by people who can hire you. Attached is an article I created with you in mind that contains 9 steps on how to make sure that you're seen immediately by the right decision maker that will hire you immediately. Hope this article is of value to you. Would love to get your feedback. How about Thursday at 10, when I'm going to share with you 2 other ideas I have for you? What will be your genuine, honest reaction if you got something like that from Chad?
Well, first of all, at an egoic level, it's, oh, wonderful, he thought of me, right? But without doubt, it's like, of course I'm going to open this email, I'm going to read it, and I'm definitely going to book that time because you're adding value.
So the obvious
You're not asking for anything.
That's right. All I'm doing here, all I'm teaching my client and myself to do is provide genuine, powerful value. And of course, it goes without saying, there has to be substance. Those 9 points cannot just be, so what? I want those 9 points to be, wow, this is amazing stuff. I never thought about it this way. He's absolutely right. I haven't done these 2 or these 3 or all 9. So I have to put some thoughts into it. And it has to come from a genuine place of adding value. When I get you on the phone, there's no attempt to sell. All there is to get your feedback and to share the other two ideas I have for you. Remarkable things happen. Either you say to me at that time, Chad, thank you, this was profound, and most likely I'm going to ask you what action are you planning on taking that hopefully will get you there. And then sometimes people say to me, by the way, can you help me do this? Mm-hmm. And then so that's the example of what I call targeted value. We target individual out there. We send them genuine, powerful value. We ask for an appointment, and we say during the ask for the appointment, I want to share with you two other ideas I have for you when we get together.
Yes. So it's absolutely brilliant. So powerful. So talk to us for a minute. Let's shift gears for a minute, because it's very obvious how useful this might be to a speaker, consultant, an entrepreneur. But let's go into the other realm, which is I'm a C-suite individual. I'm the CFO, CMO, CIO, CEO. What is the most practical thing that a C-suite leader can do with what you've been sharing?
I refer to text, as powerful as it could be, as one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. Audio is two-dimensional. Video is three-dimensional, because I can show visuals, I can hear the voice, I can see the person. I'm a huge believer in the power of videos, especially podcasts like this that are presented both audio and video, right? So with that in mind, if I'm a CEO, CIO, COO, CFO, I have oftentimes people I need to communicate with. I have a board of directors. I have my audience. I have my customers. I have my partners. I have my teams to communicate with. What better than seeing me in person, hopefully effectively speaking, and sharing a message of hope with them? Or sharing, hey, we just had the board meetings, or we just had a meeting with our most important clients. And here are the top 3 things that have come up during that meeting. Wouldn't it be great if the CEO or the CIO or or whoever that C-suite person is, communicate that message with whoever he needs to communicate or she has to communicate that message with? So videos, for example, putting this content out there could become very profound in our ability to share the message and not have this secrecy that people don't know what's happening. Oftentimes when I look at organizations, I see tremendous amount of what I call sterility. It's very sterile. Their website, the web's present. There's no spirit. There's no human being behind that. Right. Wouldn't it be great if people on the team can share videos and say, here's what's so great about our organization. Here's why we love coming here every single day, starting from the person at any level of organization all the way up to the top. Yes. So I believe that content, powerful content creation, sharing those messages both internally and externally could be an absolute amazing way of getting the brand out there and getting the kind of message that both employees, future partners say, this is the organization I want to work with. I love what they do, and I love the kind of messages that come from every level of the organization, starting with the CEO, all the way down to the employee who just took the new position as a software developer or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece for people in those positions, is understanding that, I've talked a lot about, in my last book, in Fiercely Loyal, we talked a lot about, and Shane Green and I spoke about it too, which is in the war for talent has won. So, you have to recognize that, and that means that when you're interviewing talent, you got to remember they're interviewing you too. Mm-hmm. And what you're sharing here about getting your message out there, whether you're writing, whether you're doing podcasts, or whether you're creating video, which of course is certainly my preference too, that is a way to be seen. It becomes a human resource way to bring people in. It's a way to attract phenomenal talent, as opposed to being the leader on the hill that nobody can reach. That just doesn't work anymore. And it's one of the things I say, are you leading like it's 20 years ago? Which, by the way, is an article I've actually started to outline, but it's that same thing. Right? Are you leading like it's 20 years ago? And here's your points to say, if you're doing this, you're leading like it's 20 years ago. If you think that talent is going to come to you because you're a great company or because you've been around for 40 years, you're dead in the water. You're leading like it's 20 years ago. So what you're saying here about C-suite individuals getting out there, being seen, becomes a great talent acquisition, talent pull magnet. So it's a great piece. Thank you. Very
Another
powerful.
thought is, you're welcome. Another thought, of course, my man. Let's take the sales director, the sales director of a certain division. The same question I ask you: what's one of the challenges you're facing? That sales director can ask his team. What are the top 3 challenges you're facing today? Right. And won't it be great if the sales director can say, look, I brought some of the top experts. Here are the 5 things I recommend that you do starting immediately, and provide this value to his own team. The CEO can do it with every level of organization,
of course,
people within the organization. And now we create an intellectual knowledge that can be kept both inside and outside, some of it for the benefit of the employees, some of it for the benefit of the customers. There's so much knowledge that's sitting out there that people should start really cataloging and then sharing it, of course, with the right people. That's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so much value there. Let's shift gears a little bit. It's easy for people listening, watching to go, this is great stuff, but it's easy for Chad. This guy was a music whiz. He's got software. He's obviously got this going on or that going on. It's different for me. It's always different for me. So tell us a belief that you had to overcome in order to reach the level of success that you've reached, because nobody comes through their life, their childhood, their experiences unscathed, or without some shitty belief that they've got to deal with and remove and needs a good dose of disinfectant. So what was a belief that you had to overcome to reach your level of success?
Oh boy, I don't think your show is long enough for me to share all of it.
Just pick one that you really had to overcome. One belief that you had to okay.
Two come to mind.
Okay.
Speaking and publishing. I decided years ago, so that's going back when I first decided to write my first article, and I said, there has to be a way for me to start to publish my ideas. Dove, without exaggeration, and I wrote about it. My first article took 32 hours.
Yeah, I can believe you.
And I said, there's no way. There's no possible way I'm doing this anymore. And I just said to myself, just stick with it. Just stick. And the second one was probably 16 hours. And then, so today, anywhere from 5 minutes to half an hour to an hour. So the belief that it's too long, I'm not a publisher of content, I couldn't do that. Just practice and learning from the best. So always, there are geniuses around us that can, some of them are sitting in our bookshelves, some of them are alive today. Tap into the genius around us. And there's a tremendous amount of learning. So that's belief number 1. Right. Belief number 2 is I never considered myself a speaker. Although I was doing one-on-one speaking with my clients, sometimes even talking to a sales department, how to optimize certain things. But I never thought of myself of getting on stage here. And I know you probably respect that, being such a professional speaker, a great speaker that you are. But serendipity just works in remarkable ways sometimes. And all of a sudden I get this call from someone who said, I listened to one of your webinars and we want to bring you as a speaker to our event in Las Vegas as a keynote speaker to talk about web presence. And of course, just like always, would you do this? Of course I will do it. And then what am I doing? And next call was to Patricia Fripp, said, help, I need to speak. So the belief that I am not a speaker, I could never speak, I had to overcome as well early in my career. And I love speaking today. It's such a great way for me to share the wisdom, to share the knowledge, everything I learned over the years with my target audience. So I can't wait oftentimes to get on the stage and be out there. By the way, one other thing I want to touch on, segue to one more thing. Oftentimes I get the question asked from people during my speaking presentation or clients, where do you get great ideas, what to write? And I have articles upon articles where ideas, but the most effective ways, I say to them, ask your clients, what are the top challenges they're facing today? What is driving them crazy? And then when you listen to it, make a catalog of articles you can write about. So when someone says to you, I don't know how to penetrate this new market. I don't know how to create new talent here. I do not know how to make sure that the talent I have will stay here and grow further. Those are great articles to start writing and creating content around. So anyway, so that's just a segue to this. The overcoming belief was speaking and publishing effectively that I completely had to overcome.
Yeah, so. I remember a friend of mine, this was 1990, 1991, 1992, a friend of mine came to visit me from Australia, who was a good friend of mine, and I was recovering from my fall, and I was also not very much out in the world, and he said, "Where's your book?" And I was like, "Book? What book?" And he goes, "Where's your book?" And I go, "Well, I did this little book of quotes." And he goes, "No, where's your book?" And I'm like, "What book?" He goes, "You need to write a book." And I'm like, "I can't write a book." And he goes, of course, I'm arguing for my limitations. "I can't write a book." And he said, "Why?" I said, "I can't spell. My spelling's awful. And the only thing worse than my spelling is my grammar. I can't write." I mean, and school teachers were very clear about letting me know that. They were not shy about letting me know. And he said, if you can, it became a title of somebody's book, but he said, if you can speak, you can write. And I said, well, that's not true, because I can definitely speak, but I can't write. And he said, the world of writing is changing. Now, he was predating it, because as it's now become, as you know, it's become copy style writing, which is much better, conversational, it's wonderful. But here's the thing he said to me. He said, "You may have heard of these little trolls." He goes, "They don't live underneath bridges, but they are magical." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "For writing." And I go, "I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "They're called editors." And that simple concept that, and as you said, you're surrounded by genius, but that simple concept that I could reach out and say to somebody, "Can you translate this into something that is readable?" was like such a massive shift in my belief. And it's really interesting, because very often people will say to me, "You know what I love about your books?" And I go, "What?" They go, "I feel like you're speaking to me." It's that conversational style. So the thing that I thought was my greatest detriment became a great strength in writing. And I think that's a powerful thing you're saying here, is that looking at what it is you could create in your head. I did a quote yesterday, and it says, there are things you used to believe, that you didn't used to believe, that today you believe. And the moment your world changed was the moment you began to believe it.
Wow.
And that's it. It's like, oh, okay, I can write. And now you know that I'm prolific. I mean, I just keep writing. Not sure if it's any good, but but I'm writing. It's just like I have to do it. It's part of that expression. So I love what you're saying with that. I want to ask you a question.
I want to just add one more thing to this. I've come to the realization recently. What if Edison, Aristotle, Einstein, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all the amazing thinkers and inventors throughout history, what if they did not share the wisdom with the world? What if they say to themselves, the imposter syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. It's staying with me. I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to publish. What if they did not do this? How would the world potentially have been completely different? I think we probably would still be in the dark ages if that happened. So the obvious is that those amazing thinkers, great thinkers, have got this thing out there and have stumbled upon their mistakes over and over until they got it right? I believe there's a genius in each one of us. We have a responsibility for ourselves and for humanity to share this thing with us. Even in the piece of wisdom that you share with me, I personally have never thought about, when you said number 3, who will you be when you walk away? I never thought about this question that I need to ask myself in order to groom my future generation of leaders inside my organization. So that was a profound moment for me to say, wow, I never thought about it this way. So right there, that was powerful for me. So thank you for that. And that's why I believe each one of us has some level of genius that we have a responsibility to share with this world to make it a better place.
Now, with what you do, we're running out of time, but I do want to get to this. With what you do, because you're helping these people get all that out there, but I want to know, how do you help them deal with that very issue you brought up, which is the imposter syndrome, where they go, I'm just not good enough. That's not my thing, Chad. Okay, I'm good at this, but that's not my thing. I can't do it. How do you help them? I mean, I get your message, which is, hey, the world will suffer. Like my quote is, who will suffer if you don't step into your greatness? But that's motivational. That's inspirational. But how do you get them over it? How do you go and give them that shove to say, get it out there?
So the obvious to me is this, and I share it with all my clients. If you look at some of the most successful thought leaders in the world, the most successful one, there's one thing that's obvious to me. They're all prolific publishers of remarkable content, and they don't stop creating. on any level, whether it's podcasts or videos or articles. So if the best of the best in the world are prolific publishers of remarkable content, the ones that aspire to strengthen their success, the ones that aspire to become possibly the future thought leader, they have to do so with prolific content. I say let's do it one step at a time, baby step. Let's just create one tweet. Let's take multiple tweets and make it into a checklist that becomes an article. And then I showed them the example I showed you today. Give me 2 minutes. I'm just going to demonstrate how easy it is for you to pull content out of your head. Let's tap into your experiences. Let's tap into your knowledge, your wisdom. When I show them how easy it is in a matter of 2-3 minutes to pull a good piece of content, usually I see that smirk or smile on their face. They say, okay, let's get started, Chad. That's the point that they need to do it one step at a time, and they need to realize to strengthen their web presence success, they have to do so with powerful content that gets noticed out there.
Fabulous. What if it has to be short and there can only be one thing that they get to put on your gravestone? What do you want it to say?
Great friend who was committed to get the value and the knowledge out of people's heads so they don't go into their graves with all the knowledge stores inside, but they were able to impact the world and humanity by sharing their wisdom and the great things that are inside their heads with the world.
That's fabulous. What's the one question? I mean, you do a lot of interviews, you've done a lot of podcasts, you've been what's the one question nobody asks you that they wish they would, that you wish they would? Because everybody's going to ask you, some similarity in questions. I'm sure we've gone over some of that today, and I hope we've gone over some others too. But what's the one question that you wish they would ask, but nobody does?
So one question that I wish they would have asked me.
See, dear listener, dear viewer, this is what we do. We're going to get inside the heads. This is why it's Full Monty. We get right inside the heads of the best and ask the questions that they haven't been asked so that you can learn from them.
What have you learned over the years that have made you a better husband, a better father, a better grandfather, a better friend, and a better advisor to others? What was the learning that took place to transform you into becoming better at all those areas?
If you had to answer that question in a short sentence, what would it be?
You didn't tell me you're going to ask the tough questions at the end.
I didn't.
Very good. 2 words come to mind.
Yeah.
Just love, genuine love for everyone. Whether it's, of course, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, the ultimate love and the ultimate desire to provide them with the value that will make them into better at what it is that they do.
Fabulous. Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure and honor having you on the show. Really appreciate it. Please tell our viewers, our listeners, where they can find out more about you and the amazing services you offer and potentially bringing you in to either speak with them or to hire you in some way, shape, or form.
Of course, our website, thechadbargroup.com, my blog, which is part of my website, chadbar.com, and working on my new Digital Empire Academy, which is going to teach individuals how to put together amazing content to create your digital empire. So that's coming out as well. It's all going to be on my website and on my blog.
So make sure you check out Chad, C-H-A-D, bar, B-A-R-R, group.com, thechadbargroup.com. Of course, we'll put that right next to the player so you can tune in and find it. But, we really want to thank you, Chad, for being part of the show today. And I want to say to everybody, listen, I say this to you all the time, but don't just listen to the freaking show. Play it back. listen to it. I mean, Chad is really giving you some nuggets here. He's giving you some very great, really great processes that you can walk through to deliver not just great content, but provocative content that is magnetic for you. Get out there, use it. Tune in, use it, go over the show a couple of times. And remember, the research consistently shows that the biggest challenges facing some of the most successful companies today is kind of counterintuitive. That the fast-growing companies often hit a point where they realize that they're spending a fortune attracting, training, developing talent, but they also have that talent leaving them at an incredible rate. If you're sick of investing in training and developing your talent, only to have them leave before you've got a return on the investment, then come over and talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets of your organization, so that we can assist you in reducing your employee turnover by as much as 80% in as little as 120 days, evaporating those horrendous costs. FullMontyLeadership.com, providing you with the soft leadership skills to take your organization to the top and keep you there, because you can't outsource authenticity. Also, remember to stop by matrix.fullmontyleadership.com to get your Authentic Leadership Matrix assessment tool absolutely free to you for being a tuned-in listener and a viewer. So matrix.fullmontyleadership.com is absolutely free to you. Till next time, this is Dov Baron of Full Monty Leadership saying, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about how you can be provocative and build your digital empire. Remember, there's a genius inside of you. Follow Chad's process and you can bring it out. Till next time, this is Dov Baron and I am out.